Welcome to another great episode of Smash TV, where I, the one and only Robotron, will guide you through a forest of films and series in search for those you can view without feeling disgusted about the time you wasted on them. A black politician raising funds for his campaign gets robbed by a bunch of daring criminals. Two detectives are put on the case to find out what the hell happened and who stole all that sweet, sweet money. And lo and behold, a jive-talking, hard-boiled black cop is teamed up with a street-smart white cop for an all-star duo in this not-so-blaxploitation action movie. Detroit 9000 has pimps and hoes, groovy action, smooth scenes and other goodies, and is a fairly enjoyable blaxploitation movie that is on the edge of a normal 70s cop movie. It has some enjoyable moments and doesn't bore, showing us a simpler time where corruption and criminality were rampant and open. And let's be honest, with a name like Detroit 9000 it can only be good. Check that. Love Letters of a Portuguese Nun is a fairly tame nunsploitation movie about a 16-year-old girl who is forced into a convent. Her confessor clearly wants some of that tender meat and makes sure that she is tortured, tormented and used and abused sexually by men and women. She attempts to keep her religion as she realizes that the convent is actually run by a group of Satanists. Then stuff happens and the movie is done. I expected more from this movie, but alas, very little was given, both on the nunsploitation as well on the satanic cult level. The performances are mediocre and the so-called torture and sex scenes are usually only filmed above the area where the action is, so it pretty much fails on all levels and I have not much more to say about it. Drop that. Honky Tonk Man shows us Clint Eastwood as singer Ed Stuvell, who, during the Great Depression, gets a major opportunity to record a record in Nashville. He is accompanied on his trip by his nephew, played by the real-life son of Clint Eastwood, Kyle Eastwood. This road trip brings together the man and the boy and allows us to see some growing up in an era where people weren't that sensitive because, quite frankly, they didn't have time for that. What you get is a very enjoyable and emotional movie about the beginning and the end of life, about growth, pain, loss, legacy and dreams. It's funny, it has heart and a whole lot of good music. The story is loosely based on the life of Jimmy Rogers, who was a singer-songwriter and rose to popularity in the late 20s. Honky Tonk Man is a movie, like most of the movies with and from Eastwood, you just have to have seen. But then again, I'm a fan of the man's work, so maybe I'm biased. Find out and be sure to tell me if I'm talking out of my ass. Smash that. Benedetta is Paul Robocop and Turkish fruit versions step into an nunsploitation films. It's a movie based on the real-life nun Benedetta Carlini, a novice nun in the 17th century who joins an Italian convent and starts to show her true colors as a lesbian, power-hungry and manipulative individual. I didn't know anything of the real-life Benedetta, and it was very jarring to see a not over-the-top evil nun portrayed in such a way. On the one hand, I figured Benedetta was a good person until she starts to portray certain character traits where she reveals to be anything but manipulating people and the Christian religion. As expected from Paul Verhoeven, there's nudity, both male and female, and a couple of sex scenes that could make your grandma blush. Unlike showgirls, they are done decently, but they are not titillating enough to become smutty. It all fits in the narrative and the story that is portrayed, making it part of the whole. Benedetta is a competently made movie that is a little bit on the long side, which reveals the way religion was twisted and bent by certain people to achieve a goal. No one really comes out unscarred from this movie, showing us the frailty of their humanity. If you love nuns, historic and religious stories, and do not shy away from sexual images, which quite frankly aren't there a lot, then be sure to check this out. Check that. Bloodbeat. Where to start with Bloodbeat? This movie is quite the trip, to be honest, and saying anything about it would spoil way too much for you to even bother watching this movie. Cause quite frankly, this isn't a good movie. This isn't a good movie at all. Bloodbeat shows us a woman who travels to rural Wisconsin to meet her boyfriend's family. She is joined by other people. There's hunting and chopping up deer. blood, all kinds of stuff. And then there's this strange glowing entity that starts killing people. If you read stuff about this on the internet, you pretty much get more info than I had for the first half of the movie, unless I missed something. And reading it makes it sound awesome. Unfortunately, it's not. It's poorly made, badly acted, loosely filmed, and the longer the movie progresses it becomes extremely weird and almost nonsensical. If you want to have a quirky evening with a couple of friends that are possibly under the influence and don't mind laughing and talking during the movie, then this is certainly for you. For the normal movie-going person, this is only novel for the sheer weirdness of it all, but even then you might be left wondering why you wasted your time with it. Drop that. Tango Shalom is the movie the one and only Robert Meyer Burnett, the Archduke of Banterbury, the Viceroy of Verisimilitude, the existential Mr. Rogers, the Duke of Dope Discourse, the Master of Fun and Wonder, the Sommelier of Cinema, the Chancellor of Cheerfulness, the host of the Burn Network and multiple shows on his channel, and the one who brought us many Star Trek featured DVD extras, worked on and helped come to fruition. It's the story of a Hasidic Jew trying to find the necessary funds to save his school, who ends up in cahoots with a tango dancer with no partner. Together they enter a dance competition to win the big prize. The only problem, due to his religion and customs, he is not allowed to touch a woman that is not his wife, which makes dancing the tango quite impossible. Tango Shalom is a friendly indie comedy movie that I didn't particularly find funny. The jokes, to me, fall flat, but it has heart, a whole lot of heart. The production values aren't on par with the more mainstream films, and the acting sometimes leaves something to be desired, but the story and characters are compelling enough to stick with it till the end. There are some scenes that don't quite feel right at certain points in the film, especially at the end during the actual contest. Overall, Tango Shalom is an okay movie that's worth a watch, so have a look-see. Check that. The Toolbox Murders is a 1978 horror movie about people getting murdered by a maniac who uses a toolbox and all the tools within to dispose of them. It's a movie much in the vein of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though less dirty, and Halloween, though less Halloween-y. And therefore it's something fairly standard and expected. If you pay even half attention, you quickly know who the culprit is, but the movie offers some side plot that kinda works out in the end. On top of this, it's apparently based on real life, at least that's what they claim. Who knows if it is? Right? Could be. I would not be surprised, but the people mentioned do not exist. Fake news. Fake movie. Regardless, The Toolbox Murders is an enjoyable horror slasher flick that can offer some entertainment for almost 2 hours. Grab your popcorn and your vodka-laced soda. Check that. Let me preface this by saying the Fable, The Killer Who Doesn't Kill is the sequel to the movie Fable, which I mistakenly watched before I watched the first one. I know, bad me right. Overall it doesn't make a difference, but I'd still suggest you watch the first one first. The Fable II brings back the legendary hitman called the Fable, as he works in a weird company who makes drawings. There he has to deal with the guilt of accidentally paralyzing a girl who was collateral damage during one of his many hits. The caretaker of this girl, however, is a notorious extortionist and has some bad people working under them. It's only a matter of time when the friendly killer collides with them. Fable II is a comedy action movie based on a manga written by Kazu Izuminami, and as we all know, making real-life versions of mangas is a quite daunting task, cause most of them suck. Luckily I have never read the manga, so I'm not sure how in sync it is with the movie, but overall this is an enjoyable film if it wasn't that goddamn long. At a running time of 2 hours and 13 minutes it overstays its welcome by about 40 minutes. There is some spectacular action, however, especially the one on the scaffolding, that keeps you going, but 2 hours is just way too long in between those scenes. Overall, if you like comedy and action in a typical Japanese manga-inspired movie, then this is for you. Go watch it after you watch the first near broken bar, cause the first one is better a broken bar, but more on it later. Check that. Judgement at Nuremberg is a fictional depiction of one of the many Nuremberg trials that were launched after the Germans were defeated in World War II. In this movie we are presented the judges' trial of 1947, where a bunch of German jurists, 4 in the movie, 16 in real life, are put to trial for participating in the Nazi regime and the deeds they have committed. This is a courtroom drama mostly filmed in the same location, where people use lengthy speeches that make you think and weigh the pros and cons of the situation for yourself as you are watching this. Filmed completely in black and white, cause, you know, they didn't make it in color yet. It has a small role for the iconic and legendary William Shatner, but the show is stolen by the acting chops of Spencer Tracy, Burt Lancaster, Richard Widmark, Maximilian Schnell and the one and only Marlene Dietrich. With a cast like this, it's very hard to go wrong, and it is in the US National Film Registry for being culturally, historically or aesthetically significant for a reason. The courtroom drama brings us everything you expect, including some quite disturbing, real footage of the horrors of the Holocaust, with its classic style, lengthy scenes and shots, and a runtime of almost 3 hours. The Judgement at Nuremberg movie might seem to be a daunting task for modern audiences. Add to that the black and white, and many people might be turned off to see this film. But this is one of the classics of cinema, and rightfully so. It might be a little bit lower on the importance bar as some other classics like Citizen Kane and Metropolis, but regardless, this is a movie that in my opinion needs to be seen by everyone. Smash that. In 2006, Zack Snyder brought us the extremely stylistic 300 that showed us, in all oiled up glory, a more fictional version of the 300 Spartans, and 7,000 other, that defended Greece against the Persian king Xerxes and his 300 to 800,000 soldiers during the Battle of Thermopylae. This 1962 movie, however, shows it to us without all the special effects, green screens and over-the-top stuff. A broken bar, although the line "fight in the shade" gets heard too, which is glorious. It shows us King Leonidas frantically trying to get the Grecian politicians to get into action and bring support to the 300 Spartans who, like the badasses they were, wished to stop the unstoppable force of the Persian army to a halt in a very specific strategic place. Any person who has seen any historical movie from the 50s and 60s knows the type of movie this is going to be. The style and acting are very typical but very enjoyable. Sets are grandiose, but often feel a little bit fake despite not being green screen. The 300 Spartans is a classic movie depicting the classical age in a classic way, and it has loads of far broken bar class. Did you see what I did there? Sometimes I amaze myself. Stop listening to me and go watch the 300 Spartans. It's well worth it. Smash that. And that's a wrap, fellas. Another 10 great and not so great films for you to check out. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, cause we got to have that algorithm at our side, right? Anyways, see you next time.